Hey everyone, welcome. And now to Russ.
So I have to mention for the baseball haters out there who always think that you don't have to be a great athlete in baseball because some guys don't look ripped.
Yeah, you don't have to be a great athlete in baseball. I agree with that.
Well, you would be wrong because Charlie Morton yesterday pitched with a broken leg. He threw to three batters with a broken leg, and he struck out the best player in the league with the broken leg. And it really was incredible. I was thinking, there's no way it could be this bad. I thought maybe his hip, maybe something. And you find out later he has a fractured tibia. To try and pitch with that,
just try to pitch with your leg at all, Russ, seems kind of hard. I've never mind. Just a joke. Sorry.
16 pitches he threw. So this is baseball's version of the Bobby Bond story.
Yeah.
You're in the. Just think about the image in your mind of the Dravecky falling to the ground after he broke his arm. And just think this guy was pitching with a broken leg, and it's really remarkable. When I read that it was 16 pitches, I thought, well, maybe he threw one or two.
No,
16. To me, it harkens back to the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? The 1967 thing, right?
Bobby Bond.
Yeah. And he asked to stay in the game.
64.
Oh, that's crazy. For some reason, I thought you were saying Bobby Bond's baseball.
I thought he was coming out of the game twice. He actually requested to stay in the game.
Yeah, no, it's a remarkable feat to be sure, and that's got to be pain management, mind over matter. I don't know how you could possibly do that. So obviously it was not displaced.
No,
but still, that's incredible.
Yeah, but away from that, and I have total respect for Charlie Morton for being able to tough it out through that. Let's just say that the Astro haters yesterday had a very nice day, because seeing Jorge Soler hit a shot about 400 feet into the seats, shutting up those fans right away. And I had a friend who was at the game, his first World Series game, and he said it was like a church after Atlanta went up, I think 3-0 in the
3-0.
Yeah, and couldn't happen to a nicer team. I was just hoping 4-game sweep and they get just demolished each time.
They did at one point have the coolest uniforms in baseball, but let's talk about
they did.
Yes.
Yeah, they got rid of them, but they did the Astros.
And listen, when I went to school in Houston, I went to the Astrodome. I've been to both parks. I've been to Minute Maid too, but the Astrodome was amazing. Like they had the first mechanical scoreboard that actually had that actually had some graphics.
Yeah, with the 6 shooters and that. So that was just fun.
Are you talking about the clown uniforms that they wore?
The striped ones.
Yeah, the striped ones. You call them clown uniforms?
Yeah,
they weren't. Yeah,
they weren't my favorites, but
they were good. I'm not. There's been a lot of good baseball uniforms.
You want to talk about a uniform though? Let's talk about the Colt 45 uniforms.
Yeah.
Colt 45 on the uniform.
Yeah.
How would that play today?
That would not play today, but back then.
Sponsored by Alcoholics Anonymous.
No.
Yeah, that was back then. That was cool. Yeah, the Colt 45s.
The Colt 45s. All right, here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Hello, Hockey World. It is Wednesday, October 27th. I know for sure, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and my appearance is sponsored by Tang.
Okay.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen, HockeyBuzz.
Doesn't just talk about it, he actually drinks it. And I'm Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world, and we will get to some hockey. And of course the big news out of Chicago. But before we start, I got something sent to me that I wanted to throw past you, Kevin, because this is a little bit out of the norm. This is ex-addict, when we get interesting things that I collect. You're a collector, so a hockey guy, actually the mother of a hockey guy. Actually, the mother's a hockey person. It's somebody in Canada sent me this. Someone in Canada sent me this. Okay, so this is very cool.
Yeah.
This is your vintage Cooper Waffle
leather blocker.
Yeah.
Leather blocker with the number 1 printed on it. In the spot where they printed where the pros printed their numbers back then. And she's like, my old my father, and this is like, so this would be an old grandfather, I guess, a grandfather of us, of me, who would be like, around early in the, mid 1900s, I guess, the original Six era.
Yeah.
This was a professional goalie's waffle, and he never told me who it was, and I have no idea. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I mean, the fact that there's a 1 on it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it depends on what era, and it depends on where this person is located. So
it's printed on it too, so it was like part of the Cooper. It wasn't like, it's not a sticker; it's a print.
There are plenty of people that could weigh in on that. I'm not one of them, but there are a lot of people who are experts on that and can tell you what era and.
Is there any?
How my waffles looked, by the way, when I was.
Is there any signification? Is there any signification of what team?
They're in the Toronto area. So my question is, who was the number 1 goalie for Toronto back then?
Johnny Bauer.
That's
From 59 to 70 it was Johnny Bauer, and he wore number 1. Before then, it could have been Harry Lumley, could have been Turk Broda.
Saying they remake this. This is definitely from that era, guys. It's like, it smells like it's from that era. It just is. There's no question that this is not made recently. Plus, it has something else that I remember doing myself.
Well, there are a lot of photos of Johnny Bauer.
We got to look and see.
Yeah,
I would have this these things inside here. There's like a plastic thing, and it would break. And there's a wood board in here. There's a wood board, but we can't really see it between the things. There's a wooden board stuck in there, and so that's what I would do too. When you would have to repair this on the go, you'd stick some wood up there so it wouldn't.
It's funny, Ek. I have an Emile Francis card that's either a piece of his pad or a piece of his waffle. I can't remember now.
Really?
From back when he was a goalie, which is a million years ago, and it looks just like that. The picture that they used from that looks just like that.
This is so cool. I mean, it's got you can see on the back here just barely the Cooper thing. That's the beginning of the day of the Cooper. It's rubbed. I mean, this definitely was used until it could not. Like I said, it's so old that I think she said this may have been eaten out by bugs in here.
Take a look at that picture. There's the Bauer and the blocker.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty good. I wonder if we have do we have the bottom of it? Does he have a 1 on there?
No, well, it's only the top part of it.
But a lot of
there's got to be you find another one because that looks like the same blocker.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would imagine a lot of goalies were numbered 1 though back in the day.
Well, sure,
no, definitely. Yeah. And I looked up Bernie Perrant, because he had his 1 up.
Yeah, but that was 70s.
He had his 1 up here though too. Some of the goalies had to put it up top there.
Yeah, it's too late.
It's interesting though. Yeah, definitely. So anyway, that's just a little thing I want to throw out there. I thought it was really interesting. And it stinks to high heaven. My hand now. This is the smell of hockey to me. This is the
smell of victory.
This is me playing hockey at youth hockey. This is why my wife almost didn't marry me. She would when we were dating and I come back from from my adult hockey league, she would be everything. I wasn't allowed to come into the house unless I stripped everything off of me and hosed myself outside. It's just
my hockey gear is in the garage. It's there for a reason.
All this stuff just reeks to high heaven.
Most everybody's hockey gear is in the garage. So
there you go.
You can't have a spouse and have hockey gear in the house. It's impossible.
It is incredible. You really can't duplicate that smell either.
No.
I can tell you it's there, and I know you can smell it now. You guys can smell it without me.
And it lingers. You're going to get in trouble just for having it in the house.
Oh, I know. She actually told me that I had to put this someplace else.
Yeah, here's another picture. It does not have a 1.
So have a 1 on it there.
No, but I have pictures with him wearing a lot of different blockers, so it's not.
Okay. Now, Jacques Plante was also number 1, right?
Yeah, Plante was a 1.
Yeah, but Plante was not 1. Plante was not 1 with the Leafs until 70 or 70.
Right. Now, she lived in Toronto, but she just said it was a professional hockey goalie. She said he never told me if he didn't know who it was, if it was the Montreal Canadiens or just professional hockey goalie. So who knows?
I'm pretty sure Sawchuk was 1 with the Red Wings.
Yeah, it was Canada. It was definitely in Canada. It sounds like.
But he was from the. I think
who knows? I don't know. Anyway, thanks.
Somebody from the AHL too. Yeah.
Kind of interesting. Moving on. Let's move on to
yes.
Not as interesting, not as much fun stories, but
it's interesting. It's interesting, but not fun.
Very interesting. And Kevin, you were on the Scotty Bowman press conference yesterday, so
Stan Bowman.
Sorry.
Yeah. I did. I think it's a fascinating story. I tried to come up with anything comparable in my, almost 40 years of covering the NHL, and I really don't think there is anything like this.
Yeah.
and the implications of it, and it's so layered. Like, there's the issue with regard to them not reporting it. There's an issue of the cover up. There's an issue of them allowing that video coach to continue to be with the players after they knew about it. There's the lying about it afterward by some of the participants. And it's just a ghastly performance by the Blackhawk organization at that time period. I go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I have not read the entire report. I've read the summary of it. And the thing that I found the most reprehensible was the fact that, yes, they covered up the initial instance by Aldrich with John Doe number 1. And by not reporting it and not bringing it to light, an intern was then assaulted by Aldrich. Yeah. Now, okay, you could say, you understand what they were doing. They were in the middle of their cup run. They didn't want distractions and this and that. Okay, then you fire the guy and you separate him from the team. Instead, you let things lie, and then somebody else gets pulled into this. That's where I'm sickened by it. And
there were two things that really got to me. The McDonough quote that, they're basically don't want to upset team chemistry. And the fact that the Wirtzes said that, well, this was Stan Bowman a long time ago, and he didn't want to go against almost like his elders. And it's like, hold on. This guy was the GM. He was an assistant GM for 8 years. He was a grown man. If you don't know right from wrong at that point, 10 years later is not going to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say about that. You cannot mitigate Stan Bowman's responsibility to report that. However, I do think their point is, he's a different man now 11 years later than he was when he had been on the job 6 months. And even though he was an assistant, McDonough is a pretty strong, personality. Now, saying that, I don't, I think everyone should have said something, even Kevin Cheveldayoff. I mean, it's your responsibility. Somebody should have called the police.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone should call the police.
I don't understand why somebody
would have been appropriate. Yeah.
Is somebody just, that was a crime. Yeah. And nobody reported it. And the fact that they sat around and even to say, well, I understand, why they didn't. No, I don't understand. Yeah. You can't function as a hockey team. If you take care of something that's really important like that, I don't even understand that. I don't understand why they thought that they couldn't win a cup. I would think
winning a cup is more important. Just
the fact that they couldn't do that. Don't you think the players would have wanted this guy out of there?
Oh yeah,
and he was involved. He took part in the celebrations.
He had a day with a cup.
His name is on the Stanley Cup.
That's another
thing. All of that. So I just think it's really beyond anything that I've seen with regard to and the number of people. I mean, there were 7 people in that meeting. And the meeting, and the fact they held the meeting an hour after they qualified for the Stanley Cup, it tells me that they knew how important it was. It wasn't
you're dead on. That's a great point, Kevin. I didn't even think of that.
They just, they knew this was important, and they knew that something had to be done or not done, and they opted for not done.
They literally made a conscious decision.
Yeah,
by doing it that way.
And as that the lying. I mean, the fact that Joel Quinville said, "I know nothing about it."
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's in print. We know otherwise.
Give the NHL credit for releasing this report. For this report getting out there in its fullness is really something that.
And that's where the optics of this situation are, I think, troubling because. Okay, Quenneville is saying one thing. The report is saying a completely different thing. Plus, he's going to talk with Bettman tomorrow, apparently, but he's going to be behind the bench for the Florida Panthers.
Tonight. How are you behind the bench?
Oh, I think you have to let that play out. I was asking about that earlier. I just, Like you've waited 11 years, one more day doesn't matter.
But now with everybody aware of it, everybody looking at it, it kind of overshadows the game in a way, and
it's going to be a topic of conversation.
And to me, I mean, I don't know, and it's still not. I don't know, I don't have any inside information on this at all, but it's still not. I'm not 100% sure he is going to be behind the bench. Like they might just decide to pull it off before.
Plus, I just have no idea what they'll do on this. There's no precedent for it. I've asked a number of people today, and they all said the same thing. I wouldn't even want to guess. And that's pretty much what I say, except Russ. Russ is.
Well, I'll tell you why I said that. I'll tell you why, Kev. Because when you see a quote from Kevin Chevrolet that says he welcomes Gary Bettman to have this conversation, to me that doesn't mean he fears losing his job.
No, that's not why you said it. You said it because that's the position you take all the time as an analyst. You just come out and say, what you think's going to happen as if it's fact, and that's why you're successful. You do that. That's what you think's going to happen. So,
but that's what triggered me was that quote, because that quote doesn't instill like any fear, like he's worried about his job.
Well, he may not know. He may not know. I talked to an executive who thought Stan Bowman was going to escape this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a very boilerplate response from Cheveldayoff, or probably from the PR of the Winnipeg Jets.
It was crafted.
I mean, he may escape this. I mean, I don't really know, but I'm sure his argument will be, I'm assistant GM. What can I do? I can't tell John McDonough what to do. I mean, that's going to be his defense. Now, I would argue that you pick the phone up and you
did cooperate.
Yeah, you picked the phone up and you called. So did Stan Bowman. Like he was their greatest witness. He pretty much ratted everybody out. And I shouldn't use that word because he was.
Well, he threw McDonough under the bus, which again.
Well, but I think
is a bad take in the sense that we didn't hear Stan Bowman take any personal responsibility for this.
Oh, he did. He did.
Okay, because I didn't see the quote out there. Okay, good.
Let's just say this: Russ and I were listening to this statement being read yesterday from Danny Wirtz and the head of the investigation, and at the point that they were reading it off, it sounded like up until the point that they said Stan Bowman has resigned. It sounded like they were going to point all the responsibility on McDonough, who was already retired.
Wow, that's funny, but my reaction to that was completely different.
Okay.
I read that. When they started out reading that, I thought, Stan Bowman's gone.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
That's interesting.
As soon as they started down that path.
Okay. All right, so
let me talk about McDonough for a second, because I'm not going to say I was never a McDonough fan. I've been public on here saying, I think what he did, his whole way of running things, from what I heard from the inside, was always crazy. Like it was and not just not to this level, of course, but I did hear a story, and I wrote when I was in Chicago covering a game, and it was from a very good source, very good beat writer within the organization at the time in Chicago, who told me about, ironically enough, the video coach before this guy. I'm assuming because it was a video coach during this, right in the Savard towards the end of the Savard, or the beginning of the Savard era, I guess, was when I was there.
Yeah.
And, who what was that?
No, go ahead.
Who was hired. Someone hired this guy, right? And he's down there and he's working. And McDonough wasn't told he was hired. He was just hired by somebody in the chain or whatever. They need a new video coach to hire him. And because McDonough wasn't in on it, he fired the guy on the spot and said all hirings have to go through me. And so this was the way this thing was run.
Here, to be fair though, I had interviewed John McDonough before, and he was a smart businessman. He brought in the Winter Classic. He made them a lot of money. He remade the image of the organization. Like he was very successful in those endeavors. There's no
question he's a good businessman.
Yeah.
No question.
I'm right between both of you. I interviewed John McDonough, I would say a half a dozen times. I got to know him reasonably well. I thought, as Russ pointed out, he knew what to do when they were trying to change their image. He had come over from the Cubs, and Bill Wirtz, the original owner, had really alienated the fan base, and McDonough was the right guy to help them win over. Although Rocky Wirtz was the real hero of turning that around and getting him interested. But there was no doubt There was no doubt. I talked to a lot of people within the organization. He was very difficult to work for.
Yeah.
He was a little mean-spirited in how he dealt with people, and a lot of people kind of wanted out on this. But I couldn't get anyone to play along when I talked to him today. But I wonder if you guys would play along if they're going to suspend Quenneville.
Yeah.
What do you think he would get? Like, I couldn't get anybody to.
Yeah,
I think it would be between 5 and 10 games.
That's all. Yeah.
I was going to say he might get the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's kind of what I felt, but I'm not confident in that.
I'm not confident in that.
If you get the rest of the season, I would almost guarantee he would never go become coach again. Like, I think he would just say, forget it. He would retire.
Why?
Because the whole, at that point, it would be almost like, just does he really want to go back into it? Does he really? Because he does.
He's going to get fired.
Who, between Chicago and Florida,
we're not saying
off to relax. Like,
we're not saying he's going to get fired.
I know, but he might just be. He took a year off of being in the hockey world. Remember, he took the year off to get away from everything. He's not a guy who I think is. He's the last guy who would be enjoying any kind of publicity like this. I think he would just be. But it almost feels like a suspension, Kevin, feels like it's ridiculous. To me, it feels like he's either gone or stays.
Well, that's what what would really help the situation would be if he resigned.
Right.
That would be.
Well, he's clearly not eager to do that.
Well, no, they're going to they got a good chance with the cup and all that. I mean, that's what started this, was his desire to.
That's true.
Right.
I want to talk about the punishment, because as far as for the Blackhawks, money aside, we're always going to have arguments about money. It's not enough. It's too much. I get it. People are always going to think it's not enough because it's a big operation. But when the Arizona Coyotes lost 2 draft picks, a first and a second, for pre-testing prospects, and this happens, and they don't lose any draft picks, it kind of makes you wonder why they went so hard on the Coyotes, and they didn't really go hard on the Blackhawks for anything else.
Aaron Ward brought this up on a radio broadcast. He says, okay, the Chicago Blackhawks get penalized $2 million for what we've just been talking about, and the league fined the New Jersey Devils $3 million for cap circumvention on the Ilya Kovalchuk.
But here's the thing on both of those instances with Arizona and New Jersey were competition issues, competition between the teams.
Right.
So you want to hurt them by making them less competitive.
That's it.
Where this is a criminal.
Yeah, this is punitive.
I mean, it's kind of like civil versus criminal type rewards. I'm not saying
$2 doesn't hurt them, Kev. If they lose 2 draft picks, it is a reminder that you did something wrong. $2 million is nothing.
I don't disagree with you on that. I'm not saying that I think that they shouldn't have lost draft picks. I'm just saying that I think that's the logic.
Oh, no, I get it. I think you're right.
It really feels weird to me to be tying this to anything hockey game related, like the Quenneville suspension of 10 games. That's it. So if you ignore something horrible like this, you're going to get suspended for.
Yeah. You know what? There's a point to that, because then we're doing exactly what they did.
Right.
Which
all
is
we're
made
trying to
it
do
about
is
the
predict what they're
competition.
going to do, though. We would all say he shouldn't be in the sport anymore, but we're trying to predict what they'll do, Kev. So that's different.
No, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
If we make this, about the punishment or draft picks and everything, then aren't we doing exactly what they did, which said, we got to equate this.
But you have to do something to hold them more accountable than just money.
Yeah.
Here's
another question. Did you think the Wirtzes were remorseful? I did.
Yes.
They were remorseful,
but
then they were also smug when they said they felt confident in their legal position, but would still reach out for.
I have a friend who's a lawyer, and they said his lawyer made him say that because otherwise the guy's just gonna. Otherwise, the guy's gonna say we're going to go to court because they've admitted.
Right. All right, then that's fair.
That was like
that makes sense.
I didn't like that either, but my lawyer said they can't admit guilt right there because the guy isn't going to take their offer. Then he's going to go
Fair enough.
I've been around some of these owners and also like really wealthy business people in other endeavors, and like that was totally what you could tell that was what that was. That was just the moment when you absolutely just you have to say that. And it was
because why would the guy take the offer if they admit and saying we
went on your press conference and said that's like
exactly. So
one more question: are we all supposed to believe players didn't know about this? Other teams knew about this?
I think they had to, but I don't know. Yeah,
what's crazy, they had to know, Kevin. And the crazy thing about that is, the only reason that they're not getting, or like Mark Bergevin, who was part of it too, but wasn't in that meeting at the time. Like the people in the meeting is the only thing we have hard proof on that knew about it. But beyond that, you have to think that it was known about. And if it was known about, that makes it even more ridiculous that they didn't just take care of it at the time already, because it was already known about it.
The argument against them knowing about it, because again, this came to me from somebody that I asked about it, because I believe just as you do that knowing dressing rooms the way we do, there's no way they wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Somebody would have said something to someone, although it was Black Aces. However,
but those guys travel with the team. We were interviewing some of those guys. Like but
they're not. They don't know the guys. Not very well anyway. But anyway, the point the one guy made is, can you imagine if Jonathan Taves knew about this, that he wouldn't have said, "Get this guy out of our dressing room"?
Right.
I don't know.
McDonough is an intimidating character, and the thing about it is, like, I believe that McDonough, I really do feel that McDonough was tied in tightly with Kane and Taves, because he's the kind of guy who does that. Like, he has to have those guys in his corner to promote this.
It's hard for me to believe they could get Taves to do what they want. I mean, he's one of the most militant of the Players Association people. I don't know. I mean, it's just
it's hard to believe
still.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that not a single player knew.
The other staggering thing about this, 139 people interviewed, some people multiple times. Like, you can't get much more thorough than that for 4 months, over 120 days.
Yeah,
139 people interviewed, some multiple times, including, and this stunned me, why Chad Aldrich would talk to them. He talked to them and John Doe.
Yeah. Well, what I feel bad about, though, Kev, is they weren't as thorough with protecting his identity, because with the clues that were giving out yesterday, people know his identity now, John Doe.
Oh, they knew who it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was out
there. Though. Now everybody.
At least it's better to try to keep it at least a little bit off. Which they still were trying to do. They're still trying to do.
I think they knew it was out there. I mean, I've seen group chats with people talking about who it was. Plus, it didn't, it did help and it didn't help when his good friend came out and supported him. Like, it was really important for the thing. But, as one GM said, well, as soon as he came out and talked, we all knew who it was.
Right. This is it's going to be, it's not over. I think it's safe to say it's not over. And I guess the only other question we can ask is, Stan Bowman, obviously, long hockey history from a family that's been around hockey forever. And, I'm this is not to implicate Scotty at all, or in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just saying that this is do we have a problem in hockey? I mean, do we have is this deeper than this? Like, is this just one of these many things that is being covered up? That's not just in this, but in many other things. I mean, do we really have this? Are we in and it's a societal issue, I'm sure, but it feels like it feels like it's deeper than this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's deeper or not. We do know, anybody who is paying attention to what goes on in these type of situations, that, there is a MO for people who are predatory to get involved in a position where.
Yeah, I mean, the David Frost scenario in the OHL. There have been other instances similar to this, and I mean,
it's younger players, and the fact that he used, I can hurt your career.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean,
here we go. That's just part of the deal. And
the only instance I can think of, Kevin, like I talked to, when we talked on the phone earlier today, the only other thing I can think of is like the Penn State situation. That happened with Penn State, where we had, some people who knew about things that were going on in Penn State, and they ended up, firing a bunch of people. People lost their jobs, and Penn State was punished in a competitive way. They were not allowed to compete.
They did. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
For a very long time, and when that happened, when the competitive punishment came out, I really, at the time, I remember thinking about how horrible I thought that was to those kids who were on that football team. Like, just, to anybody who had chosen to go to Penn State, because these are top players.
Yeah, but they could transfer too.
Yeah, but they had nothing to do with this. They had nothing to do with it. And
no, I know. No, but they did sort of take care of them by allowing them to transfer without penalty.
Yes.
Right. Which is a good thing, but still.
That was a good thing.
Still, I mean, that still doesn't. It's still going to mess you up as far as moving from college to college, and you're in who knows what your situations are. Anyway, I just think that we have a long way to go. Quenneville's situation is going to be fascinating to watch. I don't envy the Panthers or Quenneville right now to try to figure out what's going to happen next if they're going to do
anything. The question what's the shield?
The NHL shield. They're saying. That's what people say when they talk about the NHL. It's to protect the shield. It's the NHL logo.
Oh, okay.
Well, the question I have, and obviously, they've appointed an interim, right. is who takes over as president of hockey operations and general manager in Chicago. What direction they were going? I know Elliot Friedman said that there was a possibility of Ed Olczyk being brought in. Not as as the hockey guy, but more as the guy who would reestablish credibility within the community, because of Olczyk being, from the Chicago area, former Hawk, a well-liked person in that organization and in hockey circles. That would if he was open to that, because I do believe he's still doing color for the Hawks.
He is.
Whether he'd want to completely abandon that and go into some sort of managerial situation. But, names like Ray Shero and Jim Rutherford and Jeff Gorton was the one that they mentioned, Russ, as possible replacements for Bowman.
Well, he is principled, and he did deal with the D'Angelo situation swiftly.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
And so I think that does make sense, because I don't think he would, sit around or stand for anything.
Yeah, I think we all kind of agree he kind of got screwed a little bit. So
he did. And I think, and look, and like any other GM, he made mistakes. He did great things. Like, that's every GM. But at the end of the day, though, for those other kinds of issues, he's got a little bit of experience.
Right. Yeah, he does. All right, let's move on to other things.
Let's get the Andrew Mangiapane.
First start off. Yes, can I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. I played a couple preseason games here because I ended up watching Calgary a little bit more, and there was something about Andrew Mangiapane that I was just like, wow, that kid's about to break out and explode onto the scene. Not to say that I was right, but he is absolutely taking off right now. It's fun to watch. Mike's left the conversation. It's fun to watch because, I mean, there's something more. Some players have a certain thing, and I know you brought up the James Neal comparison today, Russ, and I just think that that's totally different because, James Neal was up and down, up and down, up and down.
No, but he started off a season ridiculously hot. Like, as an example, one of Mangiapane's goals came at 4 seconds to go in a game when the game was already decided. Like, he is ridiculously hot right now, and everything's going in. But do I think he's scoring 50 goals? No, I think he's scoring 25 goals.
I've also seen him hit 2 posts. I've seen him. I know I've watched Calgary because I've taken an interest in him. So to me, the whole thing is really. And the other thing that's crazy about him is he is not playing with Gaudreau or Monahan. Like Lindholm, who's also got 7 goals, which is an incredible thing.
He had a hat trick already.
Right. I mean, he is playing with those guys.
Well, the name.
How many assists does he have?
None. 0. And that the thing, and that's my point. He's not playing with anybody. Like,
I would tell you that I actually I'm in one pretty big money league on a fantasy league, and I have him.
You're happy. That's
I was very high on him because, just as Russ said, I thought he was going to score 25 goals.
Right.
So
now.
The guy he might not score 50, but he the bet with Mike and I is the top 20 scorer.
The guy I compare him to right now, and the thing is, okay, I like Andrew Mangiapane as a player. I think he's a good player. I like his hustle. I like his grit. I like him as a player. But this has nothing to do with the fact that Eck has made an absolutely asinine, ridiculous prediction here. I compare him to Brian Savage. Brian Savage, who was with the Canadians for a number of years, and I called him Mr. October, Kevin, because he would always score 7 or 8 goals in October, and then he'd disappear for 3 months.
Yeah. What prediction did you make?
My prediction was one of my 10 predictions that I really believed in that were crazy for this year was that Mangiapane would finish in the top 20 in NHL scoring.
No, you said top 10.
Top 10.
Top 10. Oh, top 10, right. A top 10. Which is nuts, I know.
And I named you what top 10 scorers did in 2019-20.
Right. And then with Mike, I bet top 20, right? Mike and I bet the top 20. Like we have a bet that.
I'll tell you what really happens here, and this is why you're a villain in this act. Because when you do this, you make Mike and I react to it and act like we don't like the player because we don't think this ridiculous prediction is going to happen, and so we come off looking like the bad guys because you make this wacky prediction and we don't go along with it.
It's really easy not to look like the bad guy. Kevin doesn't think it's going to happen either, but he doesn't look ridiculous.
No,
I mean he's,
I like him, but I don't think.
I'll give you an example here, Eck.
You're bringing up guys. All the examples you're bringing up, Mike.
Let me make my point.
Stop it. All the examples you're bringing up are this, and then you too, Russ. This is the thing. Oh, you're bringing up people that are up and down in their careers. Mangiapane has had a steady incline, and he is just coming into his own right now. It's not like
James Neal was a really top goal scorer in this league.
Then he was down. Then he was up. Then he was down. Savage up and down. Mangiapane has been on a steady incline. He's an undrafted player. Last year he goes into the World Championships, which I know were just the World Championships, whatever. Player of the tournament. Still, there's some players playing over there that are pretty good.
Nick Paul and Michael Bunting had great performances in the World Championships. Do they meet that? Does that mean they're going to be top?
And you can say and beyond all that, just watch the eye test on this kid. Watch a game and just focus on him.
He's a good player. We all agree.
There's more to it than that.
More to it.
He's actually turning into.
Here's an example of what you do, Ak. Russ and I think Ilya Sorokin is a really good goaltender. So much to the point that in a Stratomatic league that I've been in for 15 years, I drafted Ilya Sorokin as my first round pick. That doesn't mean he's Terry Sawchuk.
Here, I'm going to give you a tweet from the 80s.
You guys also take what I say and exaggerate it. I didn't say
if Twitter was around in the 80s. Here's a tweet from Eck. Here's a tweet from Eck. I predict John Druce will be the next Mark Howe. That's the prediction from Eck right there.
Eck, you picked him for the Hart and the Vezina.
I picked him for the Vezina. And listen, and this year I picked him
again. For the Hart and the Vezina. You did.
This year I picked him for the Vezina again. But I think that the thing and listen, and like I said, I picked that based on Varlamov getting hurt, and I thought if Varlamov gets hurt, he will do that, and he's gonna now. But let's just move past this because it's
look, we'll pretend it never happened.
I took him this year because he's been on an upward trend. Like in the AHL he was scoring a bunch of goals, and then the last couple of years seems to me he had 15 or more.
Yeah,
he's fast. He kills penalties.
Yeah,
he's everywhere, and he has that sense. The puck finds him, and when you're watching him play, it's amazing to watch. Like he's absolutely one of my favorite players in the league right now to watch because the puck just finds him. And okay, so now my blog yesterday, which is I want to talk about before we get into Toronto tonight, which I want to talk about too. But my blog yesterday was Sorokin versus Shesterkin. We talked about this. Who is better? Okay, so this is what I present to the panel today. These are two great young Russian goalies. We are going to see the future. They're going to see we're in for like a decade of this New York Islanders, New York Rangers. It's a fantastic thing that these guys are on those two teams going to play against each other in that market, which is like a great Russian. There's a lot of great Russian.
Oh yeah, Brooklyn, it's amazing.
Brooklyn, yeah. It's just really like the intensity of these two goalies. And I feel like there are Shesterkin people and there are Sorokin people out there because I put this out on my blog and it was really kind of a little bit more towards Shesterkin, but the Sorokin people are like adamant about it. Kevin, why don't you start with this? Sorokin, Shesterkin?
I like them both. I think you're splitting hairs, but I think I would take Sorokin. But I would take either one of them. But I would just take him just because I think he's got this ability, I think, to put up crazy numbers. Like I think we'll see at some season we're going to see him, with a 1.8 goals against average and 15 shutouts. That doesn't mean Shesterkin, isn't going to do something like that too. But I think Sorokin, if you look at his Russian league stats, I remember being on a podcast here and reading off his 7 goals against averages, and they were just ridiculous. So
you say tomato and I say tomato when it comes to Shesterkin and Sorokin. I mean, the thing is, I think Shesterkin is the better of the two goaltenders, but Sorokin is playing for a Barry Trotz team that plays shutdown D. So I think his stats will be better. I think when it comes to the Russian Olympic team, I think Shesterkin is going to start over Sorokin.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's the crux of the argument there, Eck, is
the Russian
going with just the goaltender ability, or are we betting on a guy because that team's defense is much better? That's what I'm wondering.
Right.
Yeah, no, that is why this is a real quandary of a question. I mean, definitely.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he will start for the Russians because they value consistency more than they do, know.
Yeah. I mean, Sorokin, they both have the ability to make incredible saves. We've seen them both make unbelievable saves.
I do think Shesterkin's a little more athletic, but it's a little.
I think he is too, but I think Sorokin, and I've said this before, and this is why I'm so high on him, is this right here. I think Sorokin has the best waffle, or blocker if you're young, that I've ever seen.
I can't comment on that. I haven't
out of anybody, and I know that's hyperbole, but I'm just the saves he makes with his waffle are better than some saves the goalies make with their glove hand.
I prefer pancakes to waffles, but
I mean, and that's the skill. Where I think Shesterkin is the best poke checker we've seen in a long time. So
I mean, the fact that he went out to center ice recently to break up a play.
In shootouts, when was the last time you saw a goalie poke check in a shootout in the NHL?
Sure.
I've seen Shesterkin do it 3 or 4 times. It's lovely. It's this old skill that's just completely gone.
There's a fearlessness in him that's pretty great to watch.
As a goalie, when playing goalie for years, there was no better feeling than the poke check. The poke check is one of my favorite saves.
And there's no worse feeling than going for the poke check and getting undressed.
Oh, yeah, when you get beaten on the poke check, you look bad. But when you poke check, it literally is like you're Lucy pulling the ball away from Charlie Brown. It's like the person stick handling it, and they're just the puck's gone, and it's just the greatest moment in the world. That's just the most fantastic save. So I agree.
Are both of those guys going to end up having a better season this year than Vasilevsky?
That's a darn good question.
Maybe. Yeah.
With the way Tampa Bay is going lately, and I just have to talk about that briefly. I mean, okay, the news came out that Kucherov is going to probably be out about at least 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And I said, and I think everybody agreed when we were talking about the Atlantic Division, that Tampa Bay had lost enough depth that if they lost a big player, it was really going to hurt them this year as opposed to other years where they could weather that storm. And they've lost Kucherov.
Yep.
Stamkos is, I think he's playing okay, but he's not playing the way he has in the past. And he's had a number of injuries. And if Vasilevsky, Kevin, isn't superhuman, they lost with Brian Elliott. They lost 5-1 to Buffalo, and I don't care how good
they did light up Jerry yesterday.
Yes, they did light up Jerry yesterday.
Oh, very nice. Usually I have a dog that visits me, but today, my granddaughter stopped by.
Awesome.
She wanted to show me that she's wearing her tutu. So
very
nice.
nice.
All right.
You got your Hey, she looks like Cindy Lou Who, to me.
Yeah, she does look like Cindy Lou.
He's looking at us like, who are these guys?
Yeah,
Cindy Lou Who was no more than two.
Grandpa doing? Jeez. But okay, Eck is so excited to bring up the Maple Leafs because again they've lost 4 games in a row, and the Carolina Hurricanes beat them 4-1 on Monday, and there's panic in Leafland, Kevin.
Like Torontorella. Torontorella. That's my prediction.
What is this? I'm sorry.
Torontorella. That's my title for my blog. I'm waiting for it.
Okay. Yeah, but here is the situation. This is not a crisis in the sense that one aspect of the team is costing them victories. It's a multi-system failure. It's right now the core group is not scoring.
Yeah.
Their defense, especially Jake Muzzin, who apparently, from what I've heard, is playing injured, is not playing particularly well. The only thing that I think has been good for them is Jack Campbell in goal, but he can't. Mrazek is hurt, and Michael Hutchinson is a true 4A goaltender. So I mean, right now, I think everything is going wrong. They go into Pittsburgh last Saturday against a team that was devastated by COVID, and they lose 7-1. Then they lose to a powerhouse in Carolina 4-1. Now they're playing the Blackhawks. Gee, nothing's going on in Chicago right now.
I just saw Chicago play, and on top of everything else they got going on there, boy, their team is a mess. And what a time for them to be without a general manager. Chicago. So,
I mean, Mike, I'll give you one concern, and maybe Sandin fills it. Let's face it, TJ Brody's offense has been falling off for years, and it's getting bad. And you wonder if Sandin's going to have to replace that offense because Riley's not enough. Teams have to have a couple of defensemen that can really push the play, especially when the forwards are sagging, And right now the Leafs aren't getting that either.
Well, I mean, I have to say that TJ Brody was probably their most valuable defenseman last year because he allowed Morgan Riley to jump into the offensive attack, and he was playing more of a defense. He didn't have any goals last season, Russ. I mean,
I know that's what I'm saying, but
they don't really care. They don't really care about his offense. They care about.
They should now because now they're not getting offense from anybody.
Right, but again, the issue here is not getting offense out of your blue line. The issue is the guys who cost you $40 million have a collective 3
But
goals.
they're not the whole team, Mike. That's what I'm saying. There are other areas of a team that you could get scoring from, and they're not getting it from defensemen either.
Russ, they need those guys to score, and if they don't,
of course they do. But you need other guys. Those guys, if they scored every game, they'd all be over a point a game players. They'd all have 100 points a year, but they don't do that.
They're a leading goal scorer in the fourth line.
I get
Jason
that.
Fetza.
I know they don't
How
have an
many
Andrew
points have come from the defense? That's my question to you.
How
many goals?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, how many goals have come from the blue line?
This year, I'll check. I think 0.
That's a problem. Kev,
Kevin,
do you think
what are
that's
your
a
thoughts
problem?
on this? I mean, my thoughts are
sure it is.
Go ahead, Kev. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just wanted to say before we go, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, sure.
Just because, and this is kind of an ode to Daryl Sutter. But, we always want to dismiss him as, the game is modern now.
Sure.
His coaching worked in the 50s and 60s and 70s. But, it doesn't work anymore, even though he won cups with it in L.A. But that's what we want to dismiss it. But, I saw Calgary early, and they were horrible. And I watched them now as they've gotten together with sort of figured out what Daryl Sutter wants from them. Yeah. And they are hard to play against.
They are.
They are just – I watched them, and I'm just saying, you just can't get through. When the Red Wings were here, or when they were here and playing the Red Wings, when they left, said, man, they were hard to play against. Like, they just couldn't get through them, and they were forcing them to play harder than they were capable of playing. And then I watched them go to the Metropolitan Division, and, they've won 4 in a row now. And
they out-forechecked the Rangers.
For sure.
Rangers, let me tell you something about that game. For all the talk about Sammy Blais and Ryan Reeves, and again, this has limited some of the Rangers scoring on the bottom 6. The last thing you thought that should happen is that a team should go in there and out-forecheck them the entire game, but that's exactly what Calgary did.
Yeah, and they've played very well, and they're getting it done, and now you can't dismiss it.
Gaudreau looks like he's like 2 inches taller for some reason right now. Like when you watch him skate out there, I don't know if that's Sutter or whatever, but Gaudreau, like, he just is looking better than he's ever looked.
Don't you think though, Eck, that it's a strategic mistake for them to have allowed him to? He's going to go to free agency now.
It is a problem. It is or they're going to have to trade him and make sure they get something back that doesn't ruin their run. But yes, it is a strategic mistake. You're right about that.
It just feels like now he's just going to go off into the sunset.
It was like 2 years ago they decided this. To me, they decided at some point that he just wasn't going to be part of their future, regardless of how well he played. But he's going to be here for another couple of years. Yeah. So that. But the weird thing about that is, what if he plays well in those couple of years? Like,
but this is right. This is an aspect, and it goes across multiple teams. This is an aspect that I don't understand about NHL general managers. Is that when you have a player like Gaudreau, who's got a year left in his contract. And face it, I don't particularly think that Calgary is a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. Could they make the top three in the Pacific Division, which is the worst division in hockey? Sure, but I don't think they're going to win. Maybe Brad Treliving and Daryl Sutter don't agree with that. Okay, that's fine. But you let this guy walk for nothing instead of getting assets back. And I'm not talking about draft picks at the deadline. I'm talking about in the summer, they could have traded him for other players that would have fit into the construct of Daryl Sutter's team. And now, more than likely, he's going to walk, and you're not going to get anything other than a compensatory pick before free agency in July. That's just dumb. It really is.
It's hard to disagree, Mike. And I mean, it seems like he's destined for like the Devils to me. Like he seems like it's a guy that's just destined to end up on the New Jersey Devils. They have cap space there. He's from New Jersey. He's from South Jersey, so it's really like it's another state altogether. But he's still,
especially where he's from. He's even in a more rural area than me because it's like another half hour southwest, and so it's very rural up there.
He's down very close to the shore, right? So. And he's completely So he grew up a Flyers fan, not a Devils fan at all. But right. The reality is, the Devils are going to have space, and they keep making this move, and they keep moving forward, and it just feels like another the Metro Division gets better and better and better. I mean, if this happens, the Metro Division is just like it's crazy how good that division is right now, right? So, but who knows? Maybe with the pressure off of him now, with guys like Andrew Mangiapane scoring. Perhaps they will. He will stay there. He will end up being there.
I mean, nobody says he can't resign there.
What was that?
Yeah, nobody says he can't resign there. It's not impossible.
Yeah, I mean,
but why would he?
No, I agree. I tend to agree with you.
The fans have just been on him for so long now. I mean, I could be wrong, but it just can't seem like that's been fun for him the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's so true, and I mean, he's such a fun player to watch. I mean, one of my favorite things still to this day was that the World Cup of Hockey and seeing him play on that team, that under-23 team, was just fantastic. He was just so good, so crazy good on that team. He'll be fun to watch for Team USA.
But you know what? The one thing I've gotten out of Gaudreau, and look, he's great when he comes into town in Philly. He knows he's going to get a lot of interviews and attention. Yeah. He's really good about it. I don't think he wants to do that for an entire season, though. So I don't think there's a chance in hell he ever wants to play for the Flyers.
I think he would want to play for the Flyers, but I don't think it matches up. I don't think it makes sense for them to match up to it. I do think though that sometimes you get a feeling on a game because we're going to get out of here. But tonight, Flyers in Edmonton. Edmonton's 5-0. This feels like and then coming back off a road trip for their first game back at home. This feels like a good setup for the Flyers actually in this game.
Without Ryan Ellis, I'd have to disagree. I don't know how they're going to cover McDavid's line. I don't know how that top pairing is not going to be great with Justin Braun up there. But just imagine they can match up against the bottom pairing if they want to.
That's true. That's true. No, I mean,
how long is Ellis out? Do we know?
It's day to day.
Okay.
Doesn't sound too bad. All right, we got to go. But folks, that was a great show as per always.
We'll be watching Mangiapane whenever he plays now, like every show.
Thanks for your open-mindedness, Mike. Remember, folks, without the buzz, it's hockey.
The purpose of an open mind is to close on something.
We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day, guys.